Welcome back to the Maven Show. This is your host Rohit. Today we have Sue, the author and email marketing strategist. Thank you, Sue, for getting into the show.
Thank you so much for asking me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. So, would you just like to give a quick intro about yourself, like how you got started with your journey?
Sure. I have been a very long time professional writer and strategist. I started my career off in sort of traditional advertising at Ogilvy and Mather. And then I was sent over to head up with the four other people, BBDO Europe, which is a big giant ad agency. And it was a fabulous experience. But after about 3 or 4 years, I left the agency and started my own agency but I never left France. So I'm an American living in Paris. And my sort of areas of expertise have always been the combination of strategy and articulating that strategy through writing. And recently, like I guess in the last sort of 10 to 15 years, I've developed a method where you use storytelling to sell your products. But it's not storytelling in the way that most people think of it. Most people think of storytelling as they're telling their brand story. What I do is I use third-party stories to illustrate what your product does, the values it has, the benefits it gives people, the challenges it helps people overcome. So it's a very different way to use storytelling in marketing.
Awesome. So, according to you, like storytelling, what do you mean by storytelling? Like, is it just telling us stories or is it something like more precise,
Yeah, it's a great question, because I actually, as I said that, I'm thinking I probably shouldn't even use the word storytelling. It's more like story snack telling. They're like little anecdotes, little scenes from a film or a chapter from a book that illustrate something that you're trying to say. So let me just give you, I think it's better to give an example. So instead of saying something like, do you need support with your business or in your relationship or whatever the category is, you could tell a story. There's this story that I love, which is, there was a guy, I think it was sometime last year, where he was flying from Bermuda to Miami. And in a little kind of tiny plane. It was him, 2 or 3 other passengers, and the pilot. And as they were flying into Miami, he realized that the pilot had slumped over at the wheel. He ran up, pushed the pilot aside, and got on the wheel of the plane, called the air traffic controller, said, "I'm flying the plane and I've never flown the plane before." I think all of us can relate to that feeling. And they got a guy in there that was sort of an instructor, and he guided this random guy who was like in jeans and flip-flops to land into the Miami airport. So everyone was like holding their breath as he went to land. He fell off the radar and they're like, "Oh my God, the worst has happened," right? 10 seconds went by, 15 seconds went by, 20 seconds went by. And then all of a sudden they heard this crackle, like, "Okay, I'm on the ground. What do you want me to do now?" And then, so that story is an illustration of how all of us need someone to guide us, whether it comes to our finances, our relationships, our business, whatever we're doing. But instead of saying what 99% of the people say, which is, "Do you need guide? Do you need support?" You tell a story about support. You tell a story about mentorship. And people will never forget your message because it's been wrapped up in an entertaining story that illustrates a point. And that's what I do, and it works really, really well. My favorite way to apply it is with email, but you can you can use it in social media and sales presentations. I mean, there's a myriad of ways you can use it. I just like email. I like email marketing because I think it's really effective to begin with, but I also like it in an email because it's like kind of the perfect size, right? But it works really well in social media. I use it there too. I have a whole social selling system that uses it both in social media and then in the emails. So it's a great tactic, and people love it, and they don't forget your message. That's what's important. And it's really hard to cut through. There's so much noise. But
Yeah.
with these little stories, you can also use your own personal stories, right? It doesn't have to be a third party story, but it's quite different than brand storytelling, which is the whole hero's journey, and it's very structured. What I like about these little story snacks is how we talk. That's how, when you go out with friends, you talk about random little anecdotes and little story snacks and what someone said to someone. And I'm trying to kind of mimic that kind of conversation with this system.
Awesome. Cool. And tell me like something more like how can someone be a great copywriter, like how someone can be writing words to win the hearts, in the business.
Well, this is, I've been writing for ages, and I think, first of all, to write well, you need to read a lot. So that's the first thing I would say to anyone. And it doesn't have to be big novels. Just read a lot. Read on the online. Read everything you can, because it helps you with your articulation. So that's one thing. But I also think, I think people feel like it has to be a certain method or an artificial method. Talk like you speak, right? I even say to people, when you first start out, say your message and have it. It's so easy to do now. There are all these free, you can just record your message, have it transcribed, and then kind of make it, you can kind of tweak it after you've done that so that it makes grammatical sense. But how we don't write formally, write as conversationally, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the best way to recreate that is simply say a message, transcribe it, and then clean it up.
Awesome. That's cool. You are into email marketing for long and into the content marketing, so like describe something about the lead generation, like how lead generation work and how a business can generate leads the well way possible, because when someone's starting out a business, it's really hard to generate leads, like even they don't know how to generate leads or what's the best way to get started, even for free, not just for paid.
Right. So there's a couple things that I do. One is freer than the other one, but I have a organic sales selling system, which basically uses these little tiny thunders to create pieces of content that invite people to get on your list, and then you sell through that. So it's all organic. It's like a big circle, if you will. And I think that a lot of people say organic doesn't work, but it does work. And it depends on what platform you're on too. So my favorite platform, and this doesn't work for everyone, because if you're B2C, it works less well. But if you're B2B, my favorite platform for sure that is really underestimated is LinkedIn. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there, as long as you kind of stay away from the DMs. And, basically you have a circle where you start bringing up content, you invite people from the content into your email list, and you sell to them through the email list. That's how I do it. And that's the second way, which really works really well, which a lot of people also don't think work, is I have a whole system for outreaches, cold outreaches. And I have a piece of software that I use that basically allows you, most people do cold outreaches incorrectly. And the way for it to work is every single email that I send out is personalized to the person I send it to. And there's different ways that I do that, but it's better to send out to 200 people, each of them personalized, than 20,000 that are just like the same message to everyone, right? And I get I have a client that 10x'd his revenue just in the last 6 weeks using my method. So that's a little bit, it's more time intensive and it's a little bit more expensive to do it right, but it is a great way to get lead gen. So, and I often use the two together as well, the organic outreach with the organic system along with the cold outreach.
Got it. And what do you think, like how lead nurturing works, because lead nurturing is also a part of lead generation, Like generating
Right.
leads is not just about selling products, like it's about nurturing it.
Right. Right. You know, I mean, the statistics are, I think it really depends on what the industry is, but the statistics are, 3% of the people are ready to buy right now. So that means there's 97% of those people that you would need to nurture. They might be ready in a week, they might be ready in a year, but you can talk conversationally, share stuff, be human. It's like, I think, don't just sell, be loyal to your friend, right? You'd share with them stuff, you'd ask them how they're doing, you'd ask really important. The fall, they always say it's all in the follow-up, and it is.
Mm.
Did I
Can you
lose
hear
you?
me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We will cut this part. Don't
Yeah,
worry
now
about
I can hear. Now I can hear you. Yeah,
it. We will
that's all
cut
right.
this
It's
part.
it's totally
We-
fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you this
Yes, I
question.
can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you this question once again because there was a network issue. So I'm gonna ask you the same for.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah.
Perfect.
So like how like lead generation is something which is not just about getting leads and selling the businesses or services or products out. It's about lead nurturing as well. So what thoughts do you have on lead nurturing?
Yeah, so I see them, I don't actually see them as separate. You bring in the leads and then you nurture them. And to me, you nurture them mainly through email marketing. And again, all the principles that I've talked about still stand. You talk to people conversationally. You don't constantly sell heavy promotions. You share content, you share ideas, you share thoughts that aren't always completely related to the industry, but that develop rapport. The statistics say that 3% of the people are ready to buy right now. So if you don't do lead nurturing, you're losing 97% of your opportunity, right? So you need to be constantly lead nurturing in a way that feels comfortable to people. I mean, and I'm sure you have lists that you're on that you really like hearing from them, and then there are other lists you like or like, I'm not even sure I want to be on this list. They're constantly selling to me. So it's just using kind of common sense, and always remember that relationship marketing is a little bit of a long game, but someone might buy tomorrow or they might buy in a year, but it's fine. You just keep building that relationship and the trust through the list.
Awesome. So now tell me like any best tips you have for anyone who is getting started with the content creation or like with email marketing or running their small business. They do not have the enough money to hire an agency or even a full-time. So what should they get started with? Like what's the first step they should be doing for their marketing?
So the first couple steps that I would take, the first step I would take is figuring out I personally think that it's hard to be on all platforms. Pick your main platform that you think your prospect is going to be on. And then, I mean, you can then repurpose the content across other social media platforms or other platforms, but I would pick at least one that you really concentrate on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to figure out how many pieces of content you will create a week, whether it's one a day or 3 a week or whatever it is, and stick to it. Like it should be like brushing your teeth. It's non-negotiable. You have, even if there's small pieces of content that you're out there, people aren't going to know that you exist unless they see you out there. So that, and it's like throwing pebbles out on the pond, and the more you do it, the more you'll see the ripples. And someone will, for example, the other day someone hired me who had literally heard about my book through someone I don't even know on LinkedIn, right? And he reached out to me. So you just don't know where things will end up. And I've also had people who've heard about me come back to me 3 years later. So it's like sort of you build up a momentum, but you have to pick your platform and you have to pick your constancy of your content. And you have to figure out, I mean, Tiny Thunder is a great little method that anyone can use. It's a 3-step easy method so to create content, and also figure out the type of, there's a million different content types. There's video, there's audio, there's written content, there's lists, there's polls, you can throw out a question, there's infinite ways of trying to connect. But just remember that it's not about you selling products, it's about you connecting with other human beings. And if you keep that in mind, and keep the fact that, because people don't like to be sold to, but they do like to meet other people. So that those are all sort of the things that I would think about if I were starting out and had a low budget.
Awesome. So, well, thank you so much for being into the show, sharing about these bunch of things into the storytelling, writing great content, writing great copy, into the sales and lead generation. So, yeah, thank you so much for having
Thanks.
on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.